Hello, I'm Dr Jodi Richardson, and you're listening to, well, Hello Anxiety, a podcast where we end the struggle with anxiety and build our toolkit of practical skills to thrive. Will anxiety ever go away? This is one of the most asked questions on this topic. And it comes as no surprise given the way it makes us think and feel and how it can lead to avoidance, which just makes our world smaller. But what if anxiety is actually our superpower? I wonder if you've ever considered the upside of anxiety or how we can actually harness our anxiety for good. Well, today's guest will help you look at anxiety through a very different lens. I'm joined today by Professor Wendy Suzuki, Dean of the College of Arts and Science and Professor of Neuroscience and Psychology at New York University, NYU. Professor Suzuki is passionate about brain plasticity, about exercise, and about teaching. She's a 3-time TED speaker and author of Healthy Brain, Happy Life, and Anxiety Is Your Superpower, using anxiety to feel better, think better, and do better. Welcome, Professor Suzuki. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you so much, Jodi. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Oh, you call anxiety the most misunderstood emotion. Tell us why.
Because everybody wants to kick it out the door. And actually, it shouldn't be kicked out the door. It can help you. It could help you live better. It could help you adapt better. Maybe not at the level that you are experiencing it right now today, but the book that I wrote tries to reframe our view, our vision, our mindset around anxiety. And remember, this is an emotion that evolved with us over 2.5 million years. There's a reason why. It didn't evolve just to annoy us, even though it's fun to think that way. It evolved to actually protect us. And given that evolutionary fact, I wanted to dive in and said, okay, in 2023, how exactly can anxiety protect me? And that is one of the main themes of my book.
Look, I love that you've said that, because when I talk to people, when I read about the experience of people who are living with anxiety, it's so debilitating. And I also really appreciate that you said not at the level that you might be experiencing it now, because I imagine even some listeners might have looked at the title of this episode and thought, oh, hang on a second, I'm a bit skeptical about this. This anxiety of mine is so hard to live with. And how could it possibly be anything but just something to try to get rid of, which of course we know we can't. So I love this perspective, and I think it's such an empowering perspective.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's really important to realize that, again, anxiety is part of our natural human range of emotions. You're never going to get rid of it. It's like getting rid of joy. Oh, I don't want joy anymore. Can I get rid of it? No, you can't. It's in our DNA. It's part of us. But the other thing about anxiety is that it exists on such a wide spectrum. Everyday anxiety. I mean, I consider myself a somebody right smack dab in the middle of experiencing everyday anxiety. Lots on my plate at work, lots of things to juggle, family obligations, all of that. And then there's, of course, truly life debilitating clinical anxiety, which is a different beast. That is something where you must go see a medical professional. The truth is that all of the approaches and all the tools that I give in this book, Anxiety Is Your Superpower, can be used by that entire spectrum. It's just that if you need to go see a medical professional, I always say, go see a medical professional first, but read this, look what you can do between your visits to the therapist or whoever you're going to see for this. But everybody else, I would say 80% of the people that are experiencing anxiety are experiencing everyday anxiety. And so all of these approaches that, I'm a neuroscientist, all of these approaches that are taken from the neuroscience and psychology of everyday life can be used by you today.
Yes, and you're going to be sharing some strategies with us, which is it's incredibly empowering to learn about what makes a meaningful difference to your anxiety, because it is,
Mhm.
like you say, so many. It's driven by uncertainty. Of course, so many people are anxious because of what we've been through with the pandemic, and there's still so much uncertainty here in Australia. We have a whole lot of interest rate changes, so there is a lot of extra financial stress, and there are lots of world events that are contributing to anxiety. Not to mention events that might impact the health and safety of our planet. So there's a lot of anxiety, and when you talk about that continuum, when
Mhm.
I picture it in my mind, I picture it as, well, if you're at sort of the more serious end of the continuum, which I'm not sure if you're familiar with my background at all, Wendy, but I live with anxiety and I'm medicated for my anxiety. But
Mm.
that helps me put into practice the skills and tools that I have developed and learned over many, many years, and also obviously work with professionally. But I picture it's about, well, if you're at one end of the spectrum, it's about doing a little shuffle down the spectrum. It's each tool can help you to sort of move along that continuum. And it's about finding what works for you, isn't it? Because
Yeah.
we might share together, I mean you, but together on the podcast, share some tools today. But it's about people finding the right one for them, isn't it?
Absolutely. I'm a huge proponent of self experimentation. I also happen to be a scientist, so I know how to do it kind of in real life, but I'm always doing it on myself. What is working? I'll give it a try. I'll really, 2 or 3 weeks. I remember one of the first experiments I did was asking myself, I wonder if early morning workouts would help me. And boy, those first 3 days, I was miserable, miserable. I was sleepy. I couldn't even follow dragged myself to the gym like a sad, drowning rat. And I couldn't listen to all the instructions. And I was turning the wrong way in gym class. But I stuck it out. I tried it for 3 weeks. And by the end of that 3 weeks, I was coming out of that class like, yeah, I did it. I did it. And I didn't turn the wrong way this time because I was actually awake. And sometimes it takes a little bit of persistence to really try things out. And, but building that muscle to do that for yourself and giving yourself, it's really an act of self-love to do these kinds of personal experiments when it's hard, when, you want to, look at what if I decrease sugar? Oh, I love my sugar. What am I going to do without my sugar? Or you want to do sleep experiments. And that was the other hard experiment when I learned the hard way that the thing that was affecting my sleep the most was alcohol consumption. That was a hard pill to swallow. But boy, it is true. And that knowledge has helped me so much in my anxiety, in my life, in my energy levels. So those personal experiments might be challenging, but they are so valuable for the rest of your life.
They are. Thank you for sharing those personal examples, because it is about just trial and error and being curious, like a scientist, being curious. I'm going to try this. I'm going to see what difference this makes for me. And what I encourage you as a listener to do is to consider how anxiety might be impacting you. What is it? What is the experience of anxiety doing in your life? How is it changing your life? How is it stopping you from doing the things that are important? And is trialing something new, like reducing or taking alcohol off the table, for example, is that going to be something that is you've got the willingness to do? Is it going to be worth your while to try it? Absolutely it is, because you might feel as though alcohol, for example, is the stress relief, the anxiety relief at the end of the day, but we know from the science that it actually winds it up.
Yeah. It
Yes.
does. It does. And it's those sometimes sad realizations
Yes.
that, but it's true. It's true for yourself. And there are all sorts of gadgets that you can buy to measure your sleep and do it. But frankly, the vast majority of this you can do with a paper and pencil and just a little bit of, noticing every day, and so much valuable information for your own personal happiness, your own personal good, is basically at your fingertips. It is such a powerful thing to realize.
Thank you so much, Professor Suzuki. I love that you've put this out there in a way that is accessible for everybody. Before we go to talking about some of these ideas that you've tried on yourself, but are also backed up by the amazing research that you're doing, what are some of anxiety's hidden superpowers?
Okay. So let me start with the one that I always like to start with because it's very easy, not only to understand where it comes from, but also very interesting, very easy to implement. So this is something that I hope every single one of the people listening to this podcast right now will try today. Try it out. See, and let me know. Email me. Tell me whether you thought it was a superpower or not. But this is anxiety's hidden superpower for productivity. Did you realize that anxiety can make you more productive? And here's how it works. It's based on a very, very common form of anxiety, which is the what if worry that comes up. What if I didn't write that essay? I'm a professor. What if I didn't write that essay well enough? What if I didn't do the conclusion strongly enough? All these what ifs. And personally, that always hits me right before I'm going to try and go to bed. And sleep is going to come and bing, all this. Oh God, did I do that? Did I do that? And so it hits us all in at different points of the day, but it's very, very common. So here's the trick. First, I'd like you all to notice that those what ifs are all around things that you care about. Did you ever have a what if about, what if I didn't watch that Netflix series number 5? I missed it. Oh no, it's not about that. It's about things at work that you're worried about your family, about your finances that are very important to you. These are things that are important to you. Aha, first clue. Okay, so these are important things, and the what ifs are, around possible areas of uncertainty, which is where anxiety comes up. But the trick here is that once you realize, these are things that my conscious or unconscious brain is telling me, these are important. The trick is to turn those what ifs into to-dos. So what if you take every single one of those what if worries and put an action on it? What if my essay wasn't good enough? Okay, I'm going to put 30 minutes. I'm going to give 30 minutes to revising the essay, or I'm going to ask a friend to reread it and give me feedback on it. Some positive action that addresses that what if. Go down the line. And what is that going to do? That is going to make this area that you're worrying about feel much less concerning because you've put all these actions on it. And I relate it to the evolution of this stress response that we're all responding to, because 2.5 million years ago, the stress response was in response to physical dangers. It was the lion, the tiger, the bear that was going to kill us physically. And so what was the response? Well, our body evolved to put us into action to either fight the bear or run away from the bear. And so I haven't been attacked by a bear recently, but I still have lots of what ifs that engage my anxiety. And so putting that action on it, it is satisfying because that has been the resolution to anxiety for a millennium. You act on it, you run away, you fight, you ask somebody, you take an action. And so it's satisfying, it's doable immediately. And it's like, oh my God, I didn't realize that I had this automatic productivity generator in my own anxiety. That's what I mean, that anxiety can be your superpower.
I've never thought about it from that point of view. When it comes to resolving the anxiety, I've always thought about and taught the idea of movement, taking action to use up the neurochemical changes, to put everything that has powered up us physiologically into action. But
Yeah.
you're exactly right. And it gives you more of that sense of control. It gives you that sense of more control over it. What about when somebody's having a what if question about a parent's health? That the parent might be perfectly healthy, but it could be, as anxiety does to us, one of those irrational, future, catastrophic kind of, what if dad gets sick? What if when mum travels, she gets mugged? What if things that are unable to go on a to-do list? What's your advice?
Yeah, a lot of things can go on a to-do list, even though you might not think they could. Even future medical concerns, getting old. Well, there are so many things one can do, one can suggest, one can encourage that improve our health, improve our cardiovascular health. My specialty, improve your brain health as you're aging. That one can take an action by learning about them, going to resources that are well thought of to get that knowledge that you need to better understand, well, what should I be doing now? What could I do if this thing strikes? You brought up, I've never had one that I had a hard time coming up with, a to do, but I'm worried that my mom might get mugged, in future travel. That is a hard one. And it helps you, perhaps, here's what I'll say. Maybe it will help you better understand why your mother was so concerned about, when you went out, because this is what happens. Like, stop saying, be careful. I know how to be careful, said my bratty little 13-year-old self. But now the tables are turned, and it's like, oh, I do worry about her falling when she's much older now. But I do refrain by saying, Mom, don't fall, be careful, don't trip, don't fall.
Yes. And it's funny that came as an example for me, but my mum did the Camino de Santiago.
Oh, beautiful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
she did the walk, and she was in Spain. She was in Spain for 6 weeks, and she's back.
Wow.
She's long been back, and I'm so proud of her. But that was one of the things but I also had a level of acceptance around it. And it came back to the idea of values, and that I know how important this is going to sound flippant, but it's not at all. It was a real peace I made with, well, if this is the way she's going to go, if something's going to happen, she's going to go doing something that's been on her heart, she's been training for and working hard for, and we've got to live our life. We've got to get out there and do the things that matter. And I have a strategy that I use and share often, is about asking the question, if we've got something on our mind, we can ask ourselves, is it helpful? And when I'm asking that question, when she was traveling, I was asking that question, what if something happens? Like, is it helpful? Well, in this moment, no, it's not helpful. What would be more helpful would be to get back on with doing the work that I was supposed to be doing when my attention got hijacked. So I love that we can think about our anxiety from a different point of view, and it takes a little moment, doesn't it? It takes a little moment to be able to step back a moment from being swept away by those what if questions and that catastrophic thinking, to observe that, hey, this is what I'm thinking about, jot them down, and then you can start to reframe it, look at it as, well, what can I do? And at the very end of the day, sometimes there won't be a to-do, but it might be reconnect with that parent, reconnect with that person, enjoy the time that you get to spend with them, be present, and bring your attention back to the time and what you do have influence over in the now.
Yes, exactly. And that's always a good thing to remember. I'm teaching a first-year seminar class right now at NYU. And one of the questions I asked in the very first class to allow us to get to know each other better was, I put them in pairs and I have them ask each other to describe a beautiful moment that they've had. Just that, nothing more. Like, I didn't give them any more direction than that. And it was so interesting to see that everybody had the same kind of category of beautiful moment. It was about time with friends, time with family, appreciation of a beautiful sunset. We had 5 sunsets in a class of 18 that came out as beautiful moments. And, it really made you realize that there are things that you could spend your time on that are so much more fulfilling as a human than worrying about the email that you might have sent that was either on point or not,
Yes.
And so, that moment, as you say, to step back and appreciate that is so valuable.
Mm. And Jake Eagle, who I interviewed recently, he researches around awe and and they've been working with the Greater Good Science Centre as well. And he writes about how a moment of awe, can really interrupt that anxiety. And if we can be present in that moment, and that's essentially what your students were reflecting on, weren't they? That in that experience, it was a beautiful experience, and that's available to us in every single day. And that's a beautiful reminder that we do have strategies, ideas, tips, tools at our fingertips, but it's about, like we were saying earlier, trying them on for size, see what's a good fit, and reminding ourselves to use them. And sometimes we might need a little bit of a reminder through a little bell on our phones, or asking Alexa to set a reminder, a little bell on every hour as a moment to take a moment, take a breath, just step out of where you're at and think about applying a strategy that might help. So what is there another superpower you'd love to talk about, or would you love to dive into a handful of strategies for us?
So actually, because of what we were just talking about, I wanted to offer what I think is my favorite tool, anxiety busting tool that I give in the book, but maybe one that you have to kind of dig for in that second part of the book where I pull them out. But it's one that I'm really, really proud of, and it's called joy conditioning. And so this is a tool that was inspired by our deep knowledge of something very opposite of joy conditioning, which is called fear conditioning, that we all experience. It's what happens if you your apartment is broken into, like mine was in Washington, D.C. And for many, many months after that, when I turned the corner right before I saw my door, I would get scared. I was like, "Oh, what am I going to see? What if I see that same door? They had used a crowbar to open the door, and I remember coming. I thought it was going to be locked, and my door was half open. And then I went in, and they found they had taken all my nice stuff, and it was just a terrible moment that came back and back again every time I was in that location. How come it was so prevalent? That it's called fear conditioning. That was because my amygdala, almond-sized, almond-shaped part of the brain was working, and that is a protective mechanism. It protected me so that I have my hackles up in this location where something bad happened before, so something bad doesn't happen again. But it meant that every time I went home, I was like, "Ooh, I got this, jolt of fear." And so all of us are going through things like that all the time. That stays with you for a very, very long time because it evolved to do that, to give you safety. And I thought, oh, that's depressing. Like, so we're just accumulating all these fearful memories because they're so powerful in our memory. And by contrast, for many years, I've studied part of the brain that helps us remember the facts and events of our lives. And that part of the brain is called the hippocampus. And it's malleable. Sometimes it works, as we know. Sometimes we can remember the name of the person. Sometimes we can't. And I wish it worked better. But I know what makes memories stick more. And one of them is repetition. And so I realized, oh my gosh, well, the amygdala has this powerful way of forming negative memories. We have a conscious way of forming strong positive memories by just thinking about them again. And so joy conditioning is using that knowledge of how our memories work and inviting you to go back and relive and pick out the most beautiful events and the most memorable, joyous, happy events in your life. and rethink about them. Every single time you think about it again, you are strengthening that memory. Everything comes back, the feelings, who was there, who was not there, where it took place, what it smelled like, what it felt like, what the temperature was, all of that is coming back. And so the exercise is to counteract all that fear conditioning that goes on automatically. Give yourself some joy conditioning. Think about that wonderful vacation, that wonderful party that you threw, that wonderful present that you got, and relive that and strengthen that memory for yourself. And that is a wonderful way to also decrease your anxiety.
Oh, and this is a brilliant transfer of your research with dementia into anxiety. And so it's extraordinary that you've been able to, and that's the beauty of science, isn't it? It's drawing parallels and transferring knowledge and applying knowledge learned in one field to another. And it's sitting here listening to you and thinking about, well, what are my moments of joy? And I immediately go to the beach, and we've got a stand-up paddleboard that is getting us to spend more time in the water than on the board at the moment. Or am I just talking about me? And I think about, just when I was handed my babies for the first time, a few of these moments just pop back into my memory while you were talking. And I already, just talking to you, I feel a shift. I feel different. And it's that savoring, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Savoring in the moment, if we can, so that when we reflect and we can go back, then we can draw on what we were savoring and, like you say, relive it, essentially relive those beautiful moments.
Exactly.
Yes.
What if you had a lifetime full of just beautiful moments? That would be amazing.
Wouldn't it just? And for those of us who are parents, these are ideas we can share with our children, and we can role model them. We can be in the kitchen, and I can say, so I've got a beautiful friend coming over today. She said, can I come to your house and we're going to work together today from my home? And I'm excited that she's coming. And so we can reflect and share what we're thinking about with our children in a way that helps them to adopt some of our thinking strategies without us being so prescriptive and saying, you should do this.
Absolutely. Yeah, totally agree.
Yes, joy conditioning. Well, listeners, that is a very new strategy for us here on Hello Anxiety. So we're very grateful to you. What else could you share with us that perhaps our listeners may not have learned about before as ideas that they can put into place to really help to kind of wind back that anxiety when it's getting in the way?
Sure. Well, let me share two that I'm sharing because they are the most implementable and the strongest science-based tools that you can use. And you might have heard of them before, but you might not know why it's working. And the first one is one that I've studied for a very long time in my lab, which is the transformative effects of physical activity, moving your body, going on the paddleboard, going for a walk. All of those things is very, very helpful for positive mood states. And so you might say, oh, I've heard that before, but I don't have time to move. Well, here's exactly what's happening. Every single time you move your body, there's a whole bunch of neurochemicals that are released in your brain. And you've heard of these neurochemicals before. They include dopamine, serotonin, noradrenaline, endorphins, growth factors. And so think of this as a wonderful neurochemical cocktail or neurochemical bubble bath for your brain that you're giving yourself every single time you move. And the next question is, how little do I have to move to get this? Because I don't have a lot of time. And the answer to that is 10 minutes. You've already walked for 10 minutes today. Well, I'm in New York City, so of course I've walked for 10 minutes. But that is the minimum amount that has been shown in clinical studies to significantly decrease anxiety and depression levels. That is available to us all the time. You don't even have to change into your spandex to, partake in this, or your bathing suit if you're going out on the paddleboard. But it is so powerful. And to that, I will add that by physical activity, I don't mean going to the gym and running on a treadmill. I mean moving your body in whatever way you do. Walking for 10 minutes. Again, this a minimum amount. Maybe you like to walk with your pets, with your family, with your friends. Maybe you're going shopping and that includes walking. Maybe you're going to a museum and that includes walking. Gardening, also anything physical. Dancing in your living room, also very physical. So be broad, be open about that, and use that when you need it. Going to an important meeting, well, do an extra 10-minute walk around the block before you get there, because it is going to change your mood and your attitude before you go in. And that is my tip number one for everybody.
Thank you. It's a different mindset, isn't it, when you understand the investment in your mental health, not to mention your physical health.
Yeah.
Because we get so caught up with work and the task. And let's face it, there's always going to be something to do. And at the end of the day, we're going to, well, not necessarily at the end of the day, but there will come a time when we kind of pay for what we didn't do regularly.
Mm.
And I don't mean that to sound pessimistic, but it's the truth. If you don't make it a priority now, then eventually a priority to look after your health will be forced upon you. And so what if we could think about each and every day in and of itself as an opportunity just to take a little bit extra to do something that will not only serve us in the moment, but will make a powerful difference across our lifetime. It's something that is a priority for me, because exercise is the fundamental way, along with mindfulness, that I really look after my mental health. And yesterday, it was Monday here yesterday morning, and I hadn't done much exercise last week because I'd been way too sore from what I'd done on the Monday. So I needed to take a bit of a break. I'd overdone it. And so I got back yesterday. I didn't feel like going. I just felt sluggish, like you were saying about your early morning exercise.
Yeah.
Oh, my goodness. And I got there and I was starting to do the warm up, and the first 10 minutes can sometimes feel worse than,
Yes.
as your body's adjusting. And I just thought, you know what? I'm here for my mental health. It's in my calendar. And if it's in my calendar, it's a priority and I get it done. And that's an hour and a half out of my day, because of the time I get there, I exercise, I get home, I shower. But it's just part of my lifestyle. And not everyone can necessarily do that in the day like I can. But just 10 minutes, like you were saying, it doesn't have to be a huge commitment, but a regular commitment to a small amount can be so powerful.
Absolutely. So there is neurobiology. It's not like, a myth or something to annoy that your mom tells you that you want to ignore. But I mean, the other one you've already mentioned, which is mindfulness and meditation. And that is also strongly backed up by science. Regular meditation changes your brain. It changes the way that your brain works. And what is it doing? It is helping you focus in a different way. And we know a lot about the brain area that is important for shifting and focusing your attention, which is the prefrontal cortex right behind your forehead. And I always like to go to the example of the oldest form of meditation, which is breath meditation. Focusing, often it's when you meditate, you're supposed to focus on the feeling of your breath going in and out of your mouth or in and out of your nose. And that is such a powerful thing. This is what monks all over the world train themselves on. But what is it doing exactly to your body and to your brain? Well, to your brain, it is helping train your prefrontal cortex to say, right now, I am going to focus on my breath. And people say, oh, that's so hard to do. Well, it's hard to do because you have to train. And the biggest mistake that people make, as I'm sure you know, is say, okay, I'm going to go to an hour meditation class. Let's see if I succeed. And of course they fail because an hour is way too long. Let's start with 30 seconds. Okay, maybe 20 seconds. 20 seconds. Let's start with that. It's a skill. Like, you don't start with the marathon if you want to start, moving your body more. Same thing with meditation. But that's what it's doing for your brain. It is helping your prefrontal cortex learn something new, to focus on a given topic or a given object for a long time, for as long as you decide to do it. It's not perfect. It's not like it's completely, homogeneous focus, but you get there in fits and starts and you get better. But it's also doing something to your body, because everybody has heard of the fight or flight part of our nervous system. The fancy name of that is the sympathetic nervous system. But nobody has heard of the equal and opposite part of the nervous system, which is the parasympathetic nervous system. And the kind of cooler name for that is the rest and digest part of your nervous system. That's what kicks in on the weekends. And it's called rest and digest because one of the things that it does automatically in times of relaxation, we know we can relax more on the weekends, is that it is shunting blood from our muscles that's used to run away and fight the bear towards our digestive and reproductive organs. These are weekend activities. We can do brunch on Sunday. We could have date night on Saturday night. All these things are what the parasympathetic nervous system encourages and benefits from. But one of the things it also does is naturally slows down your heart rate, slows down your respiration, and also automatically shunts this blood towards your digestion and reproductive organs. And while I cannot automatically, by thinking about it, slow my heart rate down or shunt my blood to wherever in my body, I can breathe in whatever way I decide to breathe. And that slow breath work, that is the core of breath meditation, is one of the easiest ways that you are literally kickstarting your rest and digest nervous system. You are putting yourself into that relaxation mode with that. And that, forget about breath and whatever you're doing. It's just an easy way to activate your natural de-stressing part of your nervous system. And frankly, that's all you need to do and all you need to know. So find a way that you enjoy. Again, just like you find a way to enjoy movement, find a way to enjoy deep breathing in whatever way. And can't think of a way? Well, YouTube has like a billion different ways to breath meditate.
Yes.
And that is I say there are two number one things to do: move and breathe, or meditate, and mindfulness. So
Yes.
those are such powerful tools.
So powerful. And there is research showing that people are experiencing what's termed email apnea, which you may have come across, where they're holding their breath and not breathing in a natural, calm, rhythmic way when they're at their laptop or at their computer. And so we can benefit greatly by having, again, a small reminder. I use an app called Plum Village, and I can set a meditation bell to sound at certain times during the day. And that's my reminder to stop, check in on my breathing, just to do a couple of mindful breaths and to do a little reset. And that sort of keeps me and my nervous system where I want it to be during the day. So a little reminder can be helpful. But you have shared so much today with us, so many powerful ideas and strategies. And underpinning all of that is a very different way to look at anxiety. And I want to read a passage from your book before I ask you how people can connect with you and connect with your work. And this passage is from your introduction, and it reads as so. When you adopt strategies that harness the neural networks of anxiety, you open the door to activating your brain body at an even deeper, more meaningful level. Instead of feeling at the mercy of anxiety, we can take charge of it concretely. And I think that that's a really nice way to kind of round things out, because we can take charge of it. We absolutely can. And today you've shared with us about the what if questioning and how to switch it to a to-do. That's taking charge, how we can move ourselves along that continuum: joy conditioning, exercise, mindfulness, breathing. And also peppered amongst that, there was conversations about connecting with other people, and so much that you've shared with us today. So thank you. And how can people connect with you and find out more about your work and get a copy of your incredible book?
Yes. So you can go to wendysuzuki.com. That's the best way. There are links to all of my books, links to classes that I teach at NYU, links to all my videos, the TED Talks, and all those fun things to look at. So that's the best way, wendysuzuki.com.
Perfect. Thank you. And thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate your time. I know it's a Sunday afternoon in New York City, so very grateful for you sharing a little bit of your weekend with us. It's really been such a joy to have this time with you and to learn from you, and I'm very, very grateful.
Thank you, Jodi. It was a pleasure.
Thank you. And thank you for listening. Thank you for joining us today. And if you gained some helpful information from today's episode, which I know you did, there was so much gold in what Wendy shared with us today, please take a moment now before you move on to share a review. If you jump onto Apple and leave a review, it helps other people trust that this is a podcast that can make a meaningful difference for their anxiety. Thank you so much for joining me for this week's episode. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and leave a review. To keep the conversation going, I'd love you to join me over on Instagram. You'll find me at Dr Jodi Richardson. Also, if you'd like a copy of my free 5-day mini email course, Calm Your Anxious Brain, then jump over to my website, drjodirichardson.com, and you can sign up down the bottom. I've really enjoyed having your company. Thanks so much. See you next time.